Mario Kart World's shiny new gimmick is the giant open world map with each track laid out and various roads connecting them all. Whether it's racing from track to track on Grand Prix, following a long road to the goal in Knockout Rally, or just exploring the world in free roam, the world map is definitely an appealing idea. To me at least. I'm sure there are still many people less fond of the intermission routes. That all said, why not take this idea further? Way further. What if we had a world map with every Mario Kart track on it? Well, I did just that. I took the time to put every single Mario Kart track map onto one giant world map of my own. And I want to go over how I put it all together, how I connected every track, and the choices that went into positioning and connecting. Before I dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel and interested in following, and hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. So, let's get right to it. Alright, so this is my large world map of every single Mario Kart track. A few things to note is that, some of them are not exactly sized very well, but yeah, we'll get to that later. But the first thing I really want to say is that this is in no way a realistic idea. We're looking at this mostly just for fun, you know? This is not from a technical or a gameplay sense a realistic idea. Having this many tracks crammed into one map would be a little much for any game to handle, really. But, other than that, I guess we'll just dive in, because I can probably explain things as I go along. So, I'll zoom in, and we're going to start right in the middle with what I call the circuit zone. It's pretty basic and straightforward. This is where every single Mario circuit is going to be laid out, to begin with. In the center, we've got the Mario circuits from Super Nintendo. Much like Mario Kart World, I decided to combine just about every single Super Nintendo track into one overall track. So, the white lines that connect these tracks are a part of the track layouts, while the gray lines are connecting routes. As such, Mario Circuit would start with Mario Circuit 1 and then transfer all the way to Mario Circuit 4, because, unlike Nintendo, I actually remembered Mario Circuit 4 exists. So, much like Mario Circuit in Mario Kart World, this would be a sectional-based track, with Mario Circuit 1 being Section 1, and Mario Circuit 2 Section 2, and so forth, on and so forth. And surrounding it are each and every Mario Circuit going from every other game, starting with the N64 and going clockwise all the way to Remix Mario Circuit 1 in Mario Kart Tour. Beyond the Mario circuits, there are a few other standard tracks. Figure 8 circuits located just above everything, as well as Toad's Circuit being located just below Wii's Mario Circuit and DS Mario Circuit. Toad's Factory is also located in this section, mostly because of it being more of an industrial-styled area that I think could fit into a circuit slash, kind of like a city, almost like a small town theme as well. Think of this as like Toad Town from various games. Especially with the presence of Wii's Mario Circuit, since Toad Town is pretty much located within that area. One thing to note is that I do want to say that Peach's Castle has been in Mario Circuit since the GameCube. But in this iteration of my idea, Peach's Castle would not be located anywhere near any of the Mario Circuits, which does mean that for Mario Circuit 3DS, Peach's Castle would not be the section that you race in on the little loop section. If I were to give any sort of extra idea for that, however, I think that they could do a Mario-styled castle instead, as something of a reference to Super Mario Land 2, The 6 Gold Coins, where Wario took over Mario's castle. That means it's canonically correct that Mario has his own castle to some degree. Beyond some of the more simpler ones, we also have Sunshine Airport located right here, just as a transport area, I guess. Honestly, some of these were also just places I couldn't really think of a good place to put them, but I wanted Sunshine Airport specifically to lead into a water area, simply to make the sense of it's leading to different islands, like you're flying off to other areas. But I think the bigger part of this whole section is Piranha Plant Slide. One of the hardest ideas to really pinpoint was how was I going to fit Squeaky Clean Sprint into any of these tracks, especially if I wanted to connect them all. Normally, every track is located outdoors with only a few exceptions. And even the ones that are located inside a structure have at least some outdoor section to begin with, or to end off on, somewhere along those lines. Squeaky Clean Sprint is a completely enclosed track, much like Game Boy Advance's Bowser's Castles, as well as Tick-Tock Clock. But that gave me a brilliant idea that instead of connecting this through any other part, since it goes underwater into a drain, why not have it connect to Piranha Plant Slide, which is effectively like a sewer system. Piranha Plant Slide's location in the circuit zone is also because it's based on the Super Mario Bros. The game itself, as you know what I mean. It's based off Super Mario Bros., which I think made it a perfect place to put right near all the Mario circuits, as they probably functionally serve as good Super Mario Bros. References overall, as simple traditional areas. So I thought that Piranha Plant Slide would work really well here, with Squeaky Clean Sprint located just outside of it, so that the underground areas of Piranha Plant Slide could lead to the drainage area of Squeaky Clean Sprint. And to work off of that, we're going to move over to what I dubbed the mountainous area. So, the big one is the Forgotten Tour Track Piranha Plant Pipeline. Similar to Piranha Plant Slide, it is a pipe-themed, almost underground area themed around piranha plants, which acted as another perfect place for Squeaky Clean Sprint to connect to, being able to connect into the warp pipes through the underwater drain. That being said, that is really the only place that Squeaky Clean Sprint can connect to, and if you really think about it, that means that you do have to race almost half of Squeaky Clean Sprint just to get to any of the other tracks. I think another thing to mention is definitely how these connections will affect the track. So let me just backtrack one quick second, because I totally did not just completely forget that idea. I did. But a lot of tracks would end up being raced in reverse or having their sections completely cut off based on where they would lead. For example, Mario Circuit going into somewhere like... Well, actually, Mario Circuit seems to do a good job at just racing everywhere forward. Of course, when you're going to different circuits, you'd have to start in different places. Going to GameCube or GBA Mario Circuit would have you start in Mario Circuit 2. Going to Remix or N64 would start in Mario Circuit 1. But then you've got, starting in other areas, of course, when it comes to Mario Circuit on the GameCube, you would have to start this backwards just to get into Mario Circuit DS. Similarly, if you started in the Wii Mario Circuit and tried to travel to DS Mario Circuit, you would end up racing the whole track in reverse, which I think is reasonable because a lot of these tracks are simple enough that you could race them in reverse. Some of them are one-ways, obviously, like Mario Kart 8's Wii Mario Circuit, which would have to be driven mostly in the right direction. The anti-gravity tracks are also a little bit harder to implement simply because of their all-over-the-place nature, but I think it could work if the roads just kind of branched off. I mean, come on, floating things in the Mushroom Kingdom can't be that unheard of. In any case, that covers that. Let's move back to the mountainsides, where Choco Islands and Choco Mountain act as a very good mountainous area. They may be themed after chocolate, but it's very clear that they are meant to be more rugged-styled areas, especially Choco Mountain, which is in of itself a mountain. And of course, Sweet Sweet Canyon, while also very heavily candy and food themed, is still a giant cake mountain effectively, which I think worked very well. You could just have it as a small, cake area, I guess, but otherwise, a large portion of this entire area is all mountains and ruins. We have our first city track from Tour being Athens Dash, which was another concept that made working all of this together a little bit challenging. Of course, these tracks are not based off of places in the Mushroom Kingdom, they're based on real-world cities from our world. So fitting those into a Mario-styled map does not make a lot of sense. Athens is, of course, nowhere in the Mushroom Kingdom. That said, I don't think it's that big of a deal that you could possibly just remove the city themes and more or less work with the track layouts and what they represent. Athens Dash takes place mostly on the mountainsides anyway, with a lot of housing, and having the structures based around the real-world architecture is, I wouldn't say that that's too intrusive. It's out of place, sure, but again, this isn't exactly supposed to be a realistic idea. So, that being said, let's not think too hard about how certain cities might be close together regardless, because I think we all know that Athens probably would not be in the direct center of a world. Beyond that, of course, we have the remixed Choco Islands above here as well. Much like the Super NES tracks, any remix track that has multiple variations get linked together into one track. With this one, well, specifically, anyone with only 2 variants would start with the first route as the lap 1, then go on to the second version as lap 2, before looping back to the first version for lap 3. Alternatively, in certain cases, such as leading from Athens Dash, instead, the first lap would go around Remix Choco Island 2 before going to Remix Choco Island 1. So, in this idea, the first lap would start and lead all the way to the finish line of Choco Island 2, Remix Choco Island 2, take a full lap going into Choco Island 1 before ending on a full lap of Remix Choco Island 1 as the final lap of the race. Same with the original Choco Islands. This race starts on Choco Island 1, goes to Choco Island 2, finishes back on 1. Choco Mountain also has a split path leading to both Choco Islands, which realistically would probably be more for free roam, because if we were to travel from Choco Island to Choco Mountain, you would realistically just need to start at Choco Island 1. There isn't really any reason, aside from perhaps if we wanted to go from 3DS Mario Circuit to Choco Mountain, which doesn't seem too far to call a reasonable route. Same with Mushroom Gorge up here, but we'll talk more about that later. What connects to what really just boils down to how close are they. Obviously, you're not going to be able to go from Thwomp Ruins over here all the way to Choco Mountain. That just seems a little much. I'd say that, at most, there could be up to 2 tracks bordering between the starting point and the destination. Going from Thwomp Ruins to Rock Mountain might be a little bit more reasonable than going from Thwomp Ruins all the way to Remix Choco Island, or Daisy Hills. Maybe not Remix. Well, no, yeah, Remix. I think Remix would be a little far too. Again, not entirely realistic, especially with how crowded most of these roads will be. Alright, we're going to slowly start moving down as we look at Whistle Stop Summit, our first Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart World track. It borders onto a small Mesa section which houses only 3 tracks, 3.5 if you really want to count Whistle Stop, being Calamari Desert, Sunset Wilds, and Mario Bros. Circuit. This area is mostly supposed to just reflect the more Mesa area. I know Calamari Desert is technically a desert, but that's also why it's leading into our desert section, which is just below. This one's nothing too terribly special. It's pretty straightforward. Calamari Desert can lead you to any of these tracks, really. In fact, any of them can. And Mario Bros. Circuit can also optionally take you back to the Circuit Zone, which makes sense because the Circuit Zone is where most of the Mario circuits are, and while Mario Bros. Circuit might not be directly named after Mario, it's still got the Mario Bros. Name in it. So we'll move quickly down to the desert area, which, well, no surprise, it just houses a lot of the basic deserts. I don't really think I need to cover too much of them, but I do want to mention that, yeah, Bangkok is not really a desert area. And I'll be honest, the only real reason I put it here was because the color scheme kind of looked deserty. So I didn't honestly really know where else to put it, so I decided to put it into the desert zone. I put it near Shy Guy Bazaar because they both have a lot of stall market areas, so I thought to work with that as kind of a correlation. Otherwise, obvious ones include Dry Desert and Desert Hills. Cheeseland is also located up here, more closer to the circuit section, because technically speaking, it's not really technically a desert, but I think when you really boil down to it, it's probably more desert than it is anything else. Yoshi Desert's location close to Dry Ruins is mostly to reference the fact that the Yoshi Sphinx can be seen from both tracks. So, the Yoshi Sphinx would be located just outside of Yoshi Desert, whilst also being in the area that makes most sense to see it from Dry Ruins. Dry Ruins has absolutely no connecting points in the back half area because it's all within the ruins, but still leads off to many different other parts of the desert area. So I want to cover this mostly in the order of which I actually made the area, so we're going to move up to these plains and well, mostly the plains area. We'll start with the plains/foresty area, which houses a lot of the obvious plains and valley-styled areas, including Donut Plains, the Remix Donut Plains, Moo Moo Meadows and Moo Moo Farm, as well as a foresty area beside it that contains Daffodil Depths, Wild Woods, and Acorn Heights. So, DS Figure 8 Circuit also leads into the forest area because a part of the area could be seen as a bit more heavily forested or plains related. I just thought this would be a good spot to put it. It's got two very awkward looking connecting roads that lead to different parts. I just realized that it's actually got 2 roads leading to Daffodil Depths, which I guess really all depends. I think realistically speaking, I actually realized what I was doing here. Let me get to that in a second. First things first, covering Donut Plains. This is another simple one where lap 1 is Donut Plains 1, lap 2 is Donut Plains 2, while lap 3 would start at the lap 2 goes all around Donut Plains 2 before cutting into Donut Plains 1 to head to Donut Plains 3, making the second lap largely larger than the other two. And on the top here, we also have the top end of Vancouver Velocity, which is not the snow-based area, but as you could probably tell, northern area is more snow-based, but we'll get to that later. Mushroom Gorge is also located within this area as a more canyon-styled area leading into a valley section, and once again, we'll cover that in a second, but I want to quickly cover the foresty area that is these 3 tracks. Daffodil Depth's reason for having 2 different spots leading to Figure 8 Circuit was mostly for that it can go into the right proper direction when leading from Daffodil Depths into Figure 8 Circuit, and likewise for Figure 8 Circuit going into Daffodil Depths, going into the underground section that most other tracks in the actual Mario Kart World would probably start off with when going to this track. Otherwise, the other 2 tracks are pretty straightforward and don't have a lot of connecting routes to them, largely because they take place on top of giant trees, or, in Wild Woods' case, in a giant tree, which means connecting to them isn't very easy. That being said, that means that no track in the above area in the snow zone would be connected to Wild Woods from the tree area. So moving on to the valley section I have over here, a lot of these tracks are mostly, well, there's not a lot of them, but Daisy Hills and Yoshi Valley are both mountainous valley-styled tracks that I think fit this kind of area better than the mountainous version down below. Of course, Daisy Circuit also leads to Amsterdam Drift, which I believe is because both of them share a bit of a quaint Dutch feel to them, with the small village in Daisy Hills being a perfect place to lead up to the giant city of Amsterdam Drift. That being said, it leads to the Amsterdam Drift 3, where it would go in reverse up until it reaches the starting line, then it would take the same styled routes as it did in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Madrid Drive is also located here, less so because it's an actual valley, and once again just being a result of a city that I didn't really know where to put entirely. Because I do have a city area, but I can't cram too many actual cities in there, and I have to start working with a few other themes. Both Madrid and Amsterdam are located in the east and are relatively close to, I wouldn't say terribly close together, but they're within the same region of each other in the real world, so I guess that's the only real connection I have. Otherwise, Mushroom Gorge's canyon and cave section also takes place within the valley. Otherwise, that's pretty much a simple, small area. Moving a little bit more to the eastern side of the map, we now are moving on to a small Peach section. This is largely where Peach's Castle will be located, and houses pretty much every Peach-themed area, barring her beach track. We also have Ribbon Road and Paris Promenade because I believe that those 2 tracks fit this kind of area a little bit more, being a much more Peach-centric area. Ribbon Road's idea of using ribbons could also be seen as a parallel to Peach's general theming, especially with its color theme, and if you want to make an even broader connection to the fact that Peach had Stella as a companion in Princess Peach Showtime. Paris Promenade has also been frequently associated with Princess Peach, with her having a vacation outfit and tour that debuted alongside Paris Promenade 1, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure Peach was the expert staff ghost for Paris Promenade in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Otherwise, this is where Peach's Castle would also be located, as Peach's Castle is located directly in Royal Raceway, as well as the background to Peach's Castle, Peach Circuit. And if you want to make it even better, Peach Gardens could be located right behind it. Understandably speaking, Peach Gardens is a little bit on the small side, but take note that these tracks would, if I wanted to make this more realistic, the tracks would be sized a little bit better to be more even with each other, or slightly smaller based on their own size. Peach Stadium is also located here, as it is also located relatively within Peach's Castle, but this one will obviously not have Peach's Castle inside of it, more or less just facing towards it. Moving downward, we have a small Luigi section that houses 3 of Luigi's core beginning circuits, as well as Toad Harbor just located below them. This is another section that doesn't really have too much to say about it. It obviously connects to the surrounding areas pretty easily, with GCN Luigi Circuit leading to Ribbon Road and to Peach Stadium, with Ribbon Road being raced in reverse as a result of starting in reverse as well. Luigi Raceway also leads to Mario Circuit GCN, which would also be traversed in reverse due to its starting position, as well as being able to connect to Sunshine Airport. Wii's Luigi Circuit will lead right to Paris Promenade, which actually, one thing I forgot to mention is that I did make 2 more connecting roads within this small circular area of Paris Promenade to make connecting to various other places a lot easier, unlike the original Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version. As a result, Wii's Luigi Circuit would be able to connect and lead straight to Paris Promenade 1 without traversing too much extra points of the track. Toad's Harbor is also a nice seaside area that I think fits the Luigi area just slightly better. Arguably, we could have swapped Sunshine Airport and Toad Harbor around, but I don't think it's wholly necessary. It could just be whatever you want. As well, there's a small little extra green section here that's more or less of a less forested area, and it houses GBA Luigi Circuit and Berlin Byways. Berlin Byways is another bit of a convoluted one because Route 1 of Berlin Byways goes in reverse, and in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that route was the 3rd lap. Which means that Berlin Byways has to take some liberties when it comes to connecting to different areas. Starting with GBA Luigi Circuit, that would result in a backwards loop, leading to Berlin Byways 1 first. But in order to get into the other directions in the right way, I was thinking that instead of going backwards, that Berlin Byways 1 would end off right at this section here before going into the main road and starting Berlin Byways 3, in which it would go through the entirety of Berlin Byways 3 and before looping. Actually, now that I think about this, it's very hard to say. Actually, no, I have a better idea. So, going into Berlin Byways 1 in reverse into its regular direction, it would go right into the main road where it would start Berlin Byways 2 at this area where the finish line for Berlin Byways 3 would normally be located in Mario Kart Tour. It would then go through the entirety of Berlin Byways 2 before starting the final lap at the normal finish line. Then it would traverse the entirety of Berlin Byways 3 before going back in reverse to Berlin Byways 1 and ending the race. Again, it's a little complicated, but things get a little bit less convoluted when we go from Paris Promenade, which would just go straight downwards into the connecting road, going to the regular finish line and racing the entirety of Berlin Byways in its Mario Kart 8 Deluxe rendition. We'll talk about the other connecting road a little later when we cover the beach section. Otherwise, let's move up to the woods section. In connection to the forest area, the woods area would be housing all the haunted tracks, with Luigi's Mansion and Twisted Mansion being located in a dark forest just before a lake, and the lake housing all the classic ghost-themed tracks from Super Mario Kart all the way up to Mario Kart Super Circuit, as well as having Remix Ghost Valley 1 as well. An island located just above would house Boo's Cinema from Mario Kart World. Like all the other SNES tracks, the Ghost Valley track would follow a lap system of Section 1 being Ghost Valley 1, Section 2 being Ghost Valley 2, and Section 3 being Ghost Valley 3, with their connecting routes starting at the respective tracks to get to different routes, with Ghost Valley 1 leading to Boo Lake and Broken Pier, as well as Remix Ghost Valley 1. Ghost Valley 3 would also lead up to Remix Ghost Valley 1, which, now that I look at it, is not necessary. This whole connecting road right here might not be necessary, or it could still be used as a connecting point to Luigi's Mansion. Otherwise, Ghost Valley 3 would also lead to Banshee Boardwalk, while Ghost Valley 2 would lead all the way up to Boo Cinema. Let's see. Going down back a little bit, we're going to cover the beach area. The beach areas consist of a lot of different... Well, actually, let's make the beach section its own thing and the water section a different one. Otherwise, the beach section is a bit of a mix between beach and, I guess, savanna, really. We have Delfino Square and Daisy Circuit inland, as well as Peach Beach, Los Angeles Laps, Cheep Cheep Beach, Cheep Cheep Lagoon, Koopa Cape in the beach area, and then a small, more watery area inland to house Salty Salty Speedway and Faraway Oasis, as well as a more canyony area within water to house Shy Guy Falls, Yoshi Falls, and then an outer main area to contain Rome Advanti. Oh, this is a relatively big section, and has a lot of connecting points to the water. As such, Peach Beach specifically has a lot of watery areas, so it makes a lot of sense to put this on the border of the beach and the water area. Same with Los Angeles Laps. Delfino Square's connecting point to Berlin Byways makes another very complicated way of managing the route, but in realism, I guess the easiest thing you could do is the same thing we could do with GBA Luigi Circuit. Move upward and move towards the finish line to start Berlin Byways 1 in more normal direction before going to the finish line located just in Berlin Byways 3 to start Berlin Byways 2. Same deal, I think we can leave it at that. Of course, Delfino Square leading to other areas is also relatively easy. Starting on the straightaway where the finish line is, it's very easy to lead off to Peach Beach, as well as Daisy Circuit. It can also lead easily to Los Angeles Laps, which is another course that is completely split into 3 sections. Every single road will do its best to lead to the main road in the middle so that it can connect to Los Angeles Laps 1 easily, before doing Los Angeles Laps 3, and then finally Los Angeles Laps 2. That being said, that makes it all very similar and almost identical to its Mario Kart 8 Deluxe rendition. Of course, we also go further downward so that Los Angeles Laps 2 will lead off to Cheep Cheep Beach, as well as Salty Salty Speedway, with most of the routes doing its best to connect Salty Salty Speedway in a forward direction. The only exception is Daisy Circuit, which I haven't really connected to. I think, if anything, maybe this connecting road could lead into Salty Salty Speedway so that it can connect to the water area and make a clean transition into the forward direction. Otherwise, this would be another track that could potentially be raced in reverse. Faraway Oasis is also connecting to these areas, with Salty Salty Speedway being able to start in reverse and lead to what seems to be... See, I'm a little less familiar with a lot of these world tracks. Faraway Oasis is not one I race on frequently, and as far as I'm concerned, the finish line is located down here, which means that Faraway Oasis would likely have to be driven in reverse in order for it to connect from Salty Salty Speedway. Otherwise, its connecting point leads to Cheep Cheep Lagoon, Shy Guy Falls, Cheep Cheep Beach, and, well, I'd say that Yoshi Falls is a little far. So, as such, when it goes to Shy Guy Falls, it would start here at the anti-gravity zone before going up and doing a full 2 laps of Shy Guy Falls. Likewise, it can easily lead right into Cheep Cheep Lagoon with no problems whatsoever. Cheep Cheep Beach also has no problem going in reverse to start going towards Cheep Cheep Lagoon, and as well would also race in, if I'm correct, yeah, it would also ride to Faraway Oasis in reverse. As well, it connects to Los Angeles Laps and would go through the oil field before doing its hard right-hand turn into Los Angeles Laps 1. Moving downward, we have the final 3 tracks of this area being Koopa Cape, Rome Advanti, and Yoshi Falls. Cheep Cheep Lagoon easily connects to all 3 of these tracks, or both of these 2 tracks, going in forward direction for both. Oh, actually, no, it would actually race Yoshi Falls in reverse. Well, Yoshi Falls would go right to the beginning area and optionally could take a right-hand turn or left-hand turn going right into the water, or race Lagoon in reverse. Yoshi Falls can also lead straight to Shy Guy Falls with complete ease. Both Shy Guy Falls and Yoshi Falls would lead to Rome Advanti, but with both routes being able to easily reach the first section starting line, meaning that Rome Advanti can largely be raced in its Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version pretty easily. So, now that we've covered the beach, let's cover some of the water areas and some of the islands. This is where a lot of the older beach tracks would be located, with most of them being located directly in and surrounded by water completely. Here we'll have the Koopa Beach tracks from Super Mario Kart, Shy Guy Beach and Cheep Cheep Island from Super Circuit, Koopa Troopa Beach, Daisy Circuit and Daisy Cruiser and Yoshi's Circuit from GameCube, and well, I think you get the point. The Koopa Beaches are connected and do the same thing, where one lap would be Koopa Beach 1 before transitioning to lap 2 on Koopa Beach 2. Koopa Beach 2 takes its Mario Kart Tour rendition because its layout is a little bit more put together and a little easier to understand. The light blue areas surrounding these tracks are the shallow water areas that you can drive in. Koopa Beach leading up to Shy Guy Beach would race the track in reverse due to it starting at Koopa Beach 1. Koopa Troopa Beach, on the other hand, would start in reverse and lead all the way into Shy Guy Beach in the forward direction. Toad Harbor can also lead all the way to these two areas. Koopa Troopa Beach's position is also meant to reference the fact that you can see a Koopa Troopa shaped rock formation from Sunshine Airport, which also means that Koopa Troopa Beach is also a perfect connecting point for Sunshine Airport, all of which come out of and enter in from the terminal area. The terminal area leading to a runway, which can be then led to Koopa Troopa Beach in reverse. Toad Harbor and Shy Guy Beach will race Koopa Troopa Beach in the normal direction, as well as Daisy Cruiser. Daisy Cruiser's positioning is largely because it's a boat and it can be really placed anywhere. But in this area, I don't think it would be moving thanks to the fact that you have to reach it and each connecting road needs to be set in a specific area. That being said, it's not always easy to connect this area, and that Daisy Cruiser is very easy to get off of by jumping off the boat, but a little bit harder to get onto. That being said, it's nothing a few quick gliding sections can't fix. That being said, tracks like Yoshi's Island and a few of the desert tracks can, as well as Sunshine Airport, can reach Daisy Cruiser from a very easy spot at the very end of the boat, leading to its normal finish or starting area. Yoshi Circuit and Koopa Troopa Beach, on the other hand, likely have to start this track in reverse, meaning that it's a little bit tricky to work with. That being said, Daisy Cruiser is a track that can easily be driven in reverse because it has no true jump areas aside from the pool section. And much like Mario Kart World, a lot of these tracks would make accommodations to make sure racing in reverse would be manageable. That being said, we also have this small island over here housing Yoshi's Island, and of course it needs to be located near Yoshi's Circuit, most of which connect easily to Yoshi's Circuit starting area, with Cheep Cheep Island down here leading to the tail, which also leads straight to the starting zone. Dolphin Shoals and Cheep Cheep Beach, or Shy Guy Beach, on the other hand, would race Yoshi's Circuit in reverse. That being said, we also, of course, have Dolphin Shoals located in a giant underwater section, with its its beach section managing to lead closer to the above water areas, while its cavern section can lead straight to Wario Shipyard, which would probably still remain underwater for the most part, with some of its connecting roads leading up to areas that would go into more on-land areas. Koopa Cape is another example where the connecting roads underwater will lead to more underwater sections. By the way, if you have any questions about these rainbow stars, take a wild guess, we'll talk about them in detail a little bit later. That being said, we also have, of course, the fact that Cheep Cheep Lagoon, Cheep Cheep Beach, and Los Angeles Laps will all easily lead into all of these beach tracks, with Cheep Cheep Lagoon leading very easily into Dolphin Shoals' starting area, while Cheep Cheep Beach and Los Angeles Laps have no problem leading right into Koopa Beach 2, which would, of course, then start... Well, actually, no, it would actually just lead straight to Koopa Beach 1, do a full lap of Koopa Beach 1 before ending on Koopa Beach 2. Located just below are these two islands, as well as DK Spaceport. DK Spaceport being located directly in the water itself on a giant metal, or I guess land spot for rocket ships. Of course, this is where a large portion of our guest appearance tracks will be located, with Wuhu Island being located right here, and Animal Crossing, Excite Bike Arena, Hyrule Circuit, Big Blue, and Mute City being located just around it. The Wuhu tracks are very, very complicated to really work with, because Maka Wuhu and Wuhu Loop are located on top of each other. So that leads to Maka Wuhu leading to Wario Shipyard, while Wuhu Loop will lead to the starting point of Big Blue as well as the midway point of Cheep Cheep Beach, or Cheep Cheep Island, where it will race Cheep Cheep Island in reverse. That being said, here's a thing about these point A to point B tracks, and that they are specifically tough to really link. Big Blue manages to creep in a single outward or a connecting zone because, well, the map is a little hard to really figure out because of the anti-gravity sections. But as far as I'm concerned, this small connecting spot to Hyrule Circuit is not too far into the track, meaning that Wuhu Loop has an easy connecting spot right up to Big Blue, while Big Blue has a small connecting spot right to Hyrule Circuit. Its ending spot makes a perfect spot to connect to the beginning of DK Spaceport, meaning that you can start straight from the finish line and go straight into DK Spaceport where you would just race the entire thing. DK Spaceport has the similar situation where it can start right at its finish line and go straight to Mute City, where that would pretty much be the connecting point for both it and Excitebike Arena. In the case of Mute City, it would start in reverse and go straight to DK Spaceport, where it would immediately go right down through a gliding section to the starting track, or race Excitebike Arena in reverse. Excitebike Arena has an easy connecting point to Animal Crossing and Hyrule Circuit. So we're going to move upward towards the jungle area next. The jungle area, again, really doesn't need any sort of introduction, as it just houses all the jungle tracks. Riverside Park, Lakeside Park, DK's Jungle Parkway, DK Jungle, Dino Jungle, DK Mountain, and located just south is Piranha Plant Cove, located in another small lake where all of its ruins would be located. Being another sectional-based track, that means that there has to be a good and clean way to get every track to lead up to its starting points. Dino Jungle does a good job at leading into a small section that would go straight to the finish line of Piranha Plant Cove. Meaning that, like its Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version, you can go straight into the finish line, start Piranha Plant Cove 2, and then race everything else in the normal direction. However, going from Delfino Square and Daisy Circuit is a little bit trickier because it starts midway into Piranha Plant Cove 1. If we wanted to be realistic, it would have to do either Piranha Plant Cove 1 in reverse, or take a large portion of Piranha Plant Cove 1 as its first lap before going into Piranha Plant Cove 2 as its second lap, and Piranha Plant Cove 3 as its final lap. I think that would have to be the way forward, because starting midway in, you're either going in reverse and kind of screwing the entire thing up, or making sure, basically treating the intersection or intermission as half of the lap before the other half of Piranha Plant Cove 1 is the other half of the lap. That being said, everything else is pretty straightforward. DK's Jungle Parkway has an easy connecting point from the the first jump, leading up to a good connecting point towards Dino Jungle, as well as racing into DK Jungle in reverse. At least I think that's reverse. DK Mountain is also located in the northern area where the volcano is. Yeah, the volcano's up here. And the volcano would also interact with Lakeside Park, as Lakeside Park has a volcano in the background, with DK Mountain erupting to let the falling lava debris hit Lakeside Park. Lakeside Park has easy connecting points, meaning that every area, including Boo Cinema, can lead straight to the starting line with ease. The same can be said about DK's Jungle Parkway, which needs to have a little bit of extra care done to the route so that it doesn't start into the cave section at the end of the track. Otherwise, DK's Jungle Parkway easily leads into Riverside Park in reverse, and Riverside Park going forward easily leads into DK's Jungle Parkway. Moving upward, connecting Lakeside Park is an autumn/traditional Japanese area. Maple Tree Way and Cheep Cheep Falls both have a autumn theme to it, whilst Dragon Driftway, Tokyo Blur, and Ninja Hideaway are all based off of that eastern area of the world, with the Chinese theme of Dragon Driftway, as well as the very easy Japanese theme of Ninja Hideaway and Tokyo Blur. Tokyo Blur has a very easy connecting route leading from just below the highway of Tokyo Blur 3, where Maple Treeway is able to connect to. This connecting road leads straight to the ending area of Maple Treeway and does not connect to this giant tree branch located above, which means that Lakeside Park would take a detour around the maple tree and starting into this area. The same way that this area, well, not in the same way, sorry. I'm trying to talk fast and, not stutter as much. The ending, or the cliffside spot of Maple Treeway will lead straight into Dragon Driftway, which will cause the first lap to be half of Dragon Driftway, while the last 2 laps will be Dragon Driftway itself. The same can be said about Cheep Cheep Falls here, which I realized I forgot to color in the starting zone here, so at least now we know where it starts. Meaning that Cheep Cheep Falls has a very easy connecting point from Maple Treeway leading it into the forward direction. Both Dragon Driftway and Cheep Cheep Falls have an easy connecting point to the rooftops of Ninja Hideaway, meaning that the entire area can be done in the forward direction. Boo Cinema can also connect to this area, though it will be a long connecting route all the way up to Cheep Cheep Falls. Otherwise, a lot of this is very straightforward, with Tokyo Blur being largely raced in reverse thanks to the fact that DK Mountain Riverside can go all the way up to Tokyo Blur from the forward direction. DK Mountain, on the other hand, has to take a strong right-hand turn all the way into a reverse section of Tokyo Blur, meaning that I guess a large portion of Tokyo Blur would have to be raced in reverse if you were leading from DK Mountain, which I think can still work. Do Tokyo Blur 2 in reverse before doing Tokyo Blur 1 in reverse before doing Tokyo Blur 3 in reverse. I think it can all work out. Moving to the side, we have our ice section, which leads to a lot of different areas. We have a icy watery section to house Sherbet Land, the Remix Vanilla Lakes, part of Ice Ice Outpost, and Vanilla Lake 2. Of course, these areas in this haunted lake area would lead to Sherbet Land, where it would be largely driven in reverse. Or it could be driven in forward direction with... Well, I think from Boo Lake, it would be 1 full lap from the starting point. Yeah, no, I think that could work. Boo Lake might be a little bit harder because the first lap would be significantly longer, but Broken Pier, with its starting point being so close, might work. Of course, we also have Vanilla Lake 2 and Vanilla Lake 1, Vanilla Lake 1 being located on the snowy area, while Vanilla Lake 2 is located within the lake. Remix Vanilla Lakes are easily located within both, and have a very easy connecting point to both. Remix Vanilla Lake 1 doing a full lap of itself before transitioning into Remix Vanilla Lake 2, before going straight back into Vanilla Lake 1 for the final lap. Boo Cinema also makes a very easy connecting point, not even needing to go a full lap of Remix Vanilla Lake 2, instead just going straight through and right to Vanilla Lake 1, Remix Vanilla Lake 1, where it would do its full lap before ending off on a full lap of Remix Vanilla Lake 2. Sky High Sunday is located in this northern area as well as Sherbet Land, both of which having an easy connecting point to the rooftops of, or rather, the bottom area of Ninja Hideaway. On the other hand, the Remix Vanilla... Well, actually no, the Remix Vanilla Lakes do not have a route leading to Ninja Hideaway. Instead, Ninja Hideaway would easily be able to locate itself to the Remix Vanilla Lakes. This is an example of a one-way route that Mario Kart World does have a few of. Sky High Sunday has 3 connecting roads leading to various other areas, with Snowland being driven in reverse, and it also leading up to Merry Mountain, which it can connect to a forward route. Of course, Merry Mountain and Rosalina's Ice World have to be located in the far north, largely because the North Pole style of Merry Mountain, as well as Rosalina's Ice World being closest to space as it can possibly get. That being said, there's still another half of the snow section to cover. This is a pretty large area. Starview Peak really has to locate itself near Rosalina's Ice World due to their very similar theming, with all these areas being able to easily locate themselves closer to standard snow areas like Frappe, Snowland, and GC and Sherbet Land. The bottom half of Vancouver Velocity is also located in this area because of its snowy theme, with Vancouver Velocity 1 easily being able to transition into Frappe Snowland. On the other half of the snow area, we have a lot of the snowy mountain tracks, with Mount Wario being located just in the middle and having an easy starting access from both the next area and from Rosalina's Ice World. That being said, there is absolutely no way to connect Mount Wario into the middle sections, meaning that every single track that connects here, being Frappe and Rosalina's Ice World, simply start at the very beginning, making this whole area a 4-section track as opposed to 3. Mount Wario's ending point makes a perfect connecting zone to Frappe Snowland, as opposed to racing up from the beginning, which, again, is just easier to connect to the base half of the track. It also leads straight to DK Pass, where it would drive DK Pass largely in the right direction, but DK Summit, on the other hand, would end up driving DK Pass in reverse. DK Pass leading up to these two tracks, on the other hand, starts at the starting area and traverses most of DK Pass before transitioning to DK Summit or Frappe Snowland. Of course, DK Pass does not have a route leading up to Mount Wario, because Mount Wario being driven in reverse is a little less realistic and a bit harder to work around. DK Pass will also lead all the way down to Yoshi Valley and Madrid Drive, where it would largely be able to drive those two areas in the right direction. DK Summit, on the other hand, can be driven all the way up to the other area, which we will cover right now, being the Bowser section. I accidentally zoomed out there, my bad. The Bowser section, well, again, no real points for guessing that it's where all the Bowser's castles are. But beyond those easy ones, it also houses Grumble Volcano in the north area, Airship Fortress connecting to Bowser's castles, as well as Neo Bowser City transitioning to a small city section, and Dry Bones Burnout located below. So, one thing to note is that, obviously, all the Bowser's castles are here. World's Bowser's Castle is located high above, and 8's Bowser's Castle is located in the center. Unlike most other GBA tracks and SNES tracks, of course, GBA Bowser's Castles are actually split up a little bit more. The SNES Bowser's Castles lead into the two GBA Bowser's Castles, which form one track of their own. Bowser Castle 3 is located on the outskirts of Bowser's Castle walls, and Bowser Castle 4 is located in the middle as its own track, largely due to its size. The SNES Bowser's Castles operate in the same way, with their various routes leading to different areas. Bowser Castle 2 can lead up to... Well, actually no, Bowser Castle 3 will lead up to most of them, while Bowser Castle 2 can lead up to N64 Bowser's Castle. Bowser Castle 1 will be driven in reverse to lead back to Madrid Drive, where it will start going into its normal direction. I should probably change that connecting road so that it connects to here as opposed to here, because Madrid Drive 3 will go into this area. Or it can go drive down and go straight into Madrid Drive 1, where it would just follow everything from there. Bowser Castle 3 obviously would lead up to GBA Bowser Castle 1 and 2, whilst also acting as a good connecting point leading up to Dry Bones Burnout or Amsterdam Drift. It would be a bit of a big connecting road, as the starting line and the connecting roads are on opposite ends, but I'm sure it'll work. Bowser Castle 4, of course, is connected from GBA Bowser Castle 1. Bowser Castle 1 can lead to Mario Kart 8's Bowser's Castle, and all the other Bowser's Castles are largely just connected to each other in that way. GCN Bowser's Castle has a large connecting route that leads all the way up to Airship Fortress, which is another big Bowser-themed area based on his airship area, while Airship Fortress can also connect to Grumble Volcano, and Grumble Volcano can lead all the way to the top of Mount Wario. Remix Bowser Castle 1 is also located in the northern area, and basically is only connected through Bowser Castle on the GameCube, Wii, and Mario Kart World. The handheld Bowser's Castles are located on the western side, and lead up to Neo Bowser City, which is located within the mixed area. Located below, we have a small city section to house London Loop. London Loop was the hardest track to locate simply because, aside from being a city, it really doesn't have anything. And I really just didn't know where else to put it. So I made a small city to connect Neo Bowser City to London Loop, as well as, what I'll talk about next, the small Sky section. The Sky section is closely linked to the mountain area, with Athens Dash being able to lead up to the real Sky Garden, none of this tour business, with Sky Garden itself being able to easily connect to Cloud Top Cruise and Great Question Block Ruins. Of course, Sky Garden and Cloudtop Cruise had to link together because they are very strongly sky associated, with the Thunderstorm area of Cloudtop Cruise being located in the Bowser area and a connecting road being located below it. And the bigger connecting point is that Cloudtop Cruise in Japan is known as Sky Garden, the same as Sky Garden. A large portion of these routes also lead to a very convoluted connecting area that leads to Question Block Ruin, which all have their connecting roads either start or end in the gliding section. Great Question Block Ruin starts in reverse to go down to Sky Garden, but it does not have a connecting route that leads itself all the way up to Cloudtop Cruise. Instead, Cloudtop Cruise will connect itself to the reverse area of Great Question Block Ruins, where it will have to find a way to race itself in reverse. That being said, there still are a lot of... Well, actually no. Athens Dash seems to have a route that would lead all the way up to Great Question Block Ruins. Sky Garden also has the same deal. I honestly think that it's either that or the Great Question Block Ruins area would have to start in and around the gliding section to lead up to a forward direction into Cloudtop Cruise. Moving back to this small city area, London Loop and Neo Bowser City connect to each other very easily, with Neo Bowser City being able to do a bit of itself before leading into the normal starting point of London Loop. London Loop can start in reverse to go into Neo Bowser City in reverse, and also start in normal direction to lead all the way over to Sky Garden, and likely race it in reverse because the finish area and the connecting area are in two completely opposite ends of the track. But also leads down to our stadium area, which contains a lot of stadiums and coliseums, starting with Wario Coliseum here, Waluigi Stadium, Wario Stadium, both Wario Stadiums, and the Mario Kart Stadium, being the latest area for a starting track. Most of the stadiums easily connect to each other, with Wario Coliseum being driven in reverse to connect to most of them. The inner area of the Coliseum is a little too convoluted to actually act as any sort of connecting area, so all of Wario Coliseum's connecting routes need to be on the outside. Waluigi Stadium has two very easy connecting routes, one going in reverse to start midway into Wario Stadium, or at the very beginning of DS Wario Stadium. On the other hand, it also has a very easy connecting point up to Athens Dash, where it was able to connect to Athens Dash 2, lead up to Athens Dash 1 in normal direction, before taking its entire first route in normal, going to Athens Dash 3, before finally ending in Athens Dash 2 in reverse, making this a 4-section area. Going further down, connecting all of this, Wario Stadium will have an easy time going in reverse to go all the way to Thwomp Ruins or Mario Kart Stadium. Same can be said for DS Wario Stadium, where it would start in reverse before branching off into N64 Wario Stadium or Mario Kart Stadium. Mario Kart Stadium itself will connect all the way to our city area, where a large portion of our traffic courses are located, being Mushroom City, Super Bell Subway, New York Minute, Moonview Highway, while Shroom Ridge branches off into the mountain section. Shroom Ridge has a reverse route leading straight to Thwomp Ruins, while its forward route will lead right to the dead-end zones of Mushroom City, making these two dead-end paths / traffic paths easy connecting points to other parts of the track. That being said, Mushroom City has a very easy connecting point to all three places, being able to start in its finish line, either go in reverse towards Shroom Ridge in reverse, go in reverse to all... Well, no, actually, no. Hold on. Hold that thought. It'll go forward leading up to Super Bell Subway in reverse, Toad's Turnpike in reverse, or Mario Kart Stadium in its forward direction. Neglected to mention that N64 Wario Stadium and DS Wario Stadium would lead to Mario Kart Stadium in reverse. That being said, I don't believe that Mushroom City will be able to connect to Moonview Highway. But Moonview Highway would be able to connect to Mushroom City. Moonview Highway has an easy reverse route going right to Mushroom City, but Mushroom City seems a little too far or too convoluted to reach Moonview Highway. Really, it's all what you think. That being said, Toad's Turnpike is a very strong connecting zone to all of these tracks. We also have Crown City down here, which is also a little bit of a complicated one to work with, largely due to its 3 different sections. It is pretty easy though. If you start at Toad's Turnpike, it would actually start in the branched off section from the traffic in the N64 version, meaning that it acts as a perfect connecting point to all of the other tracks. Starting in reverse, it would easily lead up to the first area of Crown City, specifically the rooftop tunnel that would start Crown City's first route in normal direction before going into a second section that would lead all the way to this point right here before going to this whole area leading to the main highway, finishing off the track. On the other hand, Toad's Turnpike would easily go right to the inner area of New York Minute 3, go in, and then before being able to leap right back into New York Minute 1, do a lap of that to New York Minute 2, and either end right there or do a final loop of the actual New York Minute 3. It also leads straight to Super Bell Subway in the normal direction with ease. On the other hand, we also have Tick-Tock Clock, which was another relatively hard track to pinpoint, because it's also located entirely inside a building. So what I thought of is that this could be a large clock tower that will house the clock itself and have an opening area that leads straight to its areas. Toad's Turnpike would end up having to race Tick-Tock Clock in reverse, whilst Mushroom Bridge down here would easily be able to locate itself into another reverse area. Mushroom Bridge would also lead into Crown City, where it would start its third route pretty easily before doing its first route, before going into its second route and ending off right back here. Which means that from Mushroom Bridge to Crown City would likely be a 4-section track, with section 1 being the starting of Mushroom Bridge all the way to the first starting line of Crown City, the second section being all the way up to the first area of the Crown City's main starting line, Route 3 being Route 1 of Crown City, and the final lap being Route 2 going all the way around back to this starting area. Tick-Tock Clock will also go into the normal direction to lead into Mushroom Bridge in reverse or Crown City into the same type of direction, while its other connecting route will lead straight to New York Minute's first route or Toad's Turnpike in the normal direction. Located below and one of our final areas is the Entertainment Zone. The Entertainment Zone has a lot of the flashier cities or some of the more party-related areas, as well as a nice center in the form of Coconut Mall. Here we have DS Waluigi Pinball, Electrodrome, Coconut Mall, Music Park, Singapore Speedway, Sydney Sprint, and Baby Park and Water Park. Water Park being a good connecting area into the water area, Baby Park being a very simple small park to just cram anywhere, leading up to the desert area with ease, as well as connecting to the other routes with ease. Sydney Sprint was another really tough one because, like in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it did a lot of weird things where it merged routes 2 and 3 into one lap. So let me see if I can figure this all out. Water Park and Baby Park would both be able to connect to Sydney Sprint, where it would connect to its second route in the normal direction. Here, what we would do is we would make the first lap of the entire area go all the way to, I want to say, I think that the first section would end up ending off right here, where it would go into Sydney Sprint 3 and go its full lap in normal direction before reaching the finish line, which would start Sydney Sprint 1, which would go in its normal direction before ending off with a final lap of Sydney Sprint 2 in reverse. Sydney Sprint 2 going in reverse is probably the easiest thing we could really do because, well, it's either that or try to make a whole new area going in reverse, which might be possible, but let's save that for another time. Sydney Sprint being able to connect to the other places is very easy, with its starting point being right here and leading straight into Water Park in normal direction or Baby Park in reverse. Let's just say that the starting line is up here and that we're going like this, because, you know, where do you start an oval? That being said, Sydney Sprint also easily goes in reverse to lead all the way to Animal Crossing in reverse, or towards Singapore Speedway in the normal direction and Electrodrome in the normal direction. It could also lead up to Mushroom Bridge in the normal direction as well. A large portion of Electrodrome's connecting routes will make sure that it starts in an area where it's easily able to start in the normal area, as it's a little bit complicated to figure out a connecting point to the anti-gravity sections or this whole inner area. meaning that Coconut Mall can start in reverse, go all the way through the parking lot, and lead up to the landing zone from the anti-gravity area of Electrodrome and go into its normal direction. Music Park has the same area, where it goes in reverse through the Music Node area, before connecting all the way off to the starting zone of Electrodrome. Singapore Speedway would have a nice new connecting road in the Chinatown section that would easily lead right back to into Electrodrome's connecting point. Coconut Mall and Electrodrome could also be used as the connecting point all the way to DS Waluigi Pinball, with Electrodrome going in reverse and starting its connecting point from Coconut Mall all the way up to Waluigi Pinball. The same can be said about Coconut Mall. Coconut Mall also has the reverse direction going into Music Park, where it would lead Music Park in reverse. A grand majority of Singapore Speedway is largely up to how we would connect it. With both Music Park and Electrodrome leading into it in reverse, that means we'd have to create a completely new layout to go into. However, Animal Crossing is easy as it leads right into the finish line area, where it can largely do every portion of Singapore Speedway in its Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version. That being said, we would have to create a completely new way to enter and run the course if we come from Music Park and Electrodrome. Since it starts in the Chinatown area, it would have to start in reverse, meaning that we could go right into Singapore Speedway 3 in its normal direction before doing Route 2 in reverse, and then doing Route 1 in reverse. I think that would have to be the case, that all three areas would have to be run in reverse when coming from Music Park or Electrodrome. That being said, that just about covers every single main area of the map. That being said, now we have to cover the obvious rainbow stars, which would lead straight to the Rainbow Road section. Yeah, not exactly the smoothest transition, but Rainbow Roads are very easy to work with. The large Rainbow Roads, all here are the connecting roads, making it very easy to connect to. Here we have Mario Kart World's Rainbow Road in the center, because it's the biggest, which also acts as the starting point leading into every single other Rainbow Road should it want to connect, meaning that not a single other area of Mario Kart World's Rainbow Road needs to be traversed in order to traverse to other areas. It would instead start as a stopping point in the center area, which would be a large platform where the starting line is. That being said, of course, it would lead into every single other Rainbow Road. N64 Rainbow Road has would start here, with it starting in reverse if it wanted to lead into GBA Rainbow Road. It would not lead all the way over to GCN Rainbow Road, but would have a slightly long section leading all the way up to SNES Rainbow Road. SNES Rainbow Road, in return, would also go straight in reverse to lead up to the connecting area, which would allow it to lead all the way up to N64 Rainbow Road, or do a much easier route towards Remix Rainbow Road. A large portion of these Rainbow Roads would have a hard time connecting to World's Rainbow Road, meaning that N64 Rainbow Road, well actually no. The only one that I think would have the hardest time would be SNES Rainbow Road, because its starting area would lead right into it going in reverse, and I don't think we're going to come up with a way to race this track in reverse. So, that being said, SNES Rainbow Road does not connect to Nintendo Switch 2 Rainbow Road. GCN Rainbow Road has an easy and short connecting point to GBA Rainbow Road, where it would do a hard left turn going right into the course in normal direction, while GBA Rainbow Road would start in reverse and go straight to GCM Rainbow Road, where it would also go in the forward direction. DS Rainbow Road also only has one connecting point leading to its starting area, meaning that it would start in reverse to lead to other Rainbow Roads, while other Rainbow Roads would also start in reverse to lead into it into the forward direction. The same can be said about Wii's Rainbow Road, where it would start in reverse to go into 3DS Rainbow Road and DS Rainbow Road. In fact, you could probably say that same thing to a lot of Rainbow Roads. They would start in reverse to lead into other Rainbow Roads, while other Rainbow Roads leading to them would go into the forward direction. The only Rainbow Road I would like to highlight is, of course, the Remix Rainbow Roads, which, of course, are two Rainbow Roads stacked into one. Playing normally, it would do the same thing. Start on version 1, lap 2 on version 2, and end on version 1. SNES Rainbow Road would lead straight into Remix Rainbow Road 2, where it would go right into the connecting road and do the second lap of Remix Rainbow Road 1, before doing its final lap of Remix Rainbow Road 2. Remix Rainbow Road 2 obviously would start at Route 2, would actually start at Route 2 to lead to SNES Rainbow Road, as well as start on Route. Well, actually, now that I look at it, Remix Rainbow Road 2 likely would not be able to start or lead to any other areas because of its more or less convoluted way of going in reverse. It could work, and you would have to race the back half of Remix Rainbow Road 2 in order to get to Wii U's Rainbow Road, or I guess go back. No, maybe. It all depends on how I would really want to do this area, because this would have to be the starting zone for Wii U or Nintendo Switch 2's Rainbow Road. That being said, I know that was a lot of talking and a lot of stuff, but feel free to, slow it down if you want to, observe the map, and if you guys have any way you would do this differently, let me know. You know what? If you guys want to start some good topics and discussions on how you would connect each track or where you would put each track, if you would do anything different, let me know. Let's start some discussions on this. It's a fun little idea. Of course, like I said, it's not realistic, but it would be really, really entertaining to see a giant world map of every single Mario Kart track. It does make me a little excited for the idea of potential Mario Kart World DLC, where they could just make completely new world maps, but I guess we'll have to wait and see, because, Mario Kart World's still pretty new, and, I'm not entirely sure where they're going with this game. In any case, I hope you guys all enjoyed this long video. I hope you all have some good opinions. If you want to leave some comments, of course, I'd be welcome to discuss. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.